what happened at Staten Island factories, the Amazon factories, was huge in many respects. Now, remember, there was also a vote in Bessemer, Alabama. They lost, but they were a lot closer than they were the first time. And there really is a sense now that with the proper formula, maybe it's also the proper circumstance, you can unionize an Amazon warehouse. And we're going to see more of this, and it's going to scare a lot of people. In fact, here are some of the folks on, what is it, Squawk Box or CNBC or one of those things, talking about
Squawk on the street.
The Squawk on the street.
And they're in the studio.
I don't
All right. I mean, people get paid lots of money to come up with these show titles. Just putting that out there.
Did you watch Squawk today?
I'm into this entire Squawk extended universe.
Yeah, because there's Squawk Box and now Squawk on the street, but I don't see them on the street. All right, maybe we're getting caught up in the wrong.
Nevertheless,
yeah,
a very clear insight into the way that they view people who work in these factories or warehouses.
At scale.
Well, we know that the union work rules are what everything is about. It's the same case with Starbucks, too. If you can't tell your employees when they work, then you're really not able to have much of an ability to be able to move product or move coffee. And I think that the unions will be in charge of time that you need to work. And that would be dreadful very dreadful for Andy Jassy.
And that's just a U.S. picture, right?
Yeah.
They got Europe to think about as well.
Look, one of the problems was, Starbucks does indeed have unionized places in the ones that they franchise. But if you can't control the work rules, no one wants to work certain shifts. So you can just say, listen, I'm not going to work that shift. And Amazon would not be able to say, yes, you must work it. So that's what at stake with union is time that you have to work.
Our thanks to Dee. We're going to watch developments in New York.
We have more on
and
the
Alabama.
tech check?
I imagine we will.
Because she's doing amazing work. This is a very important.
There's more. Okay, good.
She's doing amazing work. This is a very important story because one of the reasons why Amazon works so well is because people work when Amazon says you must work.
Yeah, it works so well when that happens, right? I'm old enough to remember when there was a tornado in Kentucky and the Amazon said you have to stay here and don't go home despite grave threats, and multiple people died at that Amazon warehouse.
And what is he talking about really? The idea that you're not going to work, that a union's not going to work with a company if people don't want to work the Friday night 8 to midnight shift at Starbucks or something. I'm quite sure that can be worked out. What he's really talking about is not about, everybody who doesn't want to take that one shift that is bad or whatnot. What he's really talking about is just they want to operate these people as if they were robots. Like, if Amazon can't tell you that you can't take a pee or that it's got to last only 90 seconds or that you need to be on your feet for 16 hours a day or that we need to make sure that you're working doubles 4 days in a row or 5 days in a row or that you got to be on call. That's what he's really talking about. He's not talking about a shift that somebody doesn't want to do. They're talking about abuse of workers. You could say the same thing with this whole thing with with a 40-hour work week. The companies need to be able to tell and this whole thing with the kids can't work. Company needs to be able to tell the 13-year-old, you're in here at the sewing machine for 14 hours tomorrow. Otherwise, we can't. That's the way we get our margins.
Amazon union-backed study of safety data found that Amazon workers had 5.9 serious injuries per 100 people, almost 80% higher than the rest of the industry.
If the company's not able to work their people to the point where they have 5 times more injuries than the average workforce,
80% more, yeah,
they may not be able to run their business.
It might be pretty bad for a lot of you people.
You know what we call that? Not a business.
Yeah.
Then it's not a business.
If brutality is necessary, then yeah, we need to figure out another business model. It's
not a business if you if the the minimal of worker protections provided by a union somehow is going to drive you out of business, you don't have a business.
I mean, not to be hyperbolic, but like you could, this was a lot of the way that people talked about the perils of getting rid of slavery back in the in the pre-Civil War days. Those were some of the conversations, right? You need to. This is a grave threat to American capitalism, but industry in general. And he's just extrapolating that onto workers in terms of not using their bargaining power and having unsafe conditions.
Without a doubt. Same dynamic.
Yep.
Obviously, the degree of exploitation is different, and there's a whole host of issues that are associated with being a slave that aren't necessarily with working in an Amazon warehouse. But that dynamic from their perspective, in terms of the money that they're basically, just extracting.
It's not just carrot. There's also a stick element to labor relations in America that is really jealously guarded and maintained.
Been a lot of talk lately about AOC and what role progressive lawmakers should play in supporting organizing. Been playing a lot of Dark Souls lately, and it gave me a guess as to why this attempt succeeded where Bessemer failed. To take on a massive institution, you need to stay in its blind spot and prioritize avoiding its big direct attacks over maximum impact per action done. It's even better when you have allies pulling the attention and resources of the bosses. We heard far more about Bessemer and all the big names show up. I thought about this. And I think it's an interesting theory. It may be why they won, but I happen to look, Amazon spent a lot of money. They had a lot of resources. It's one thing having AOC go to Bessemer. It's another having her go to Staten Island from, Queens.
And a lot of her constituents live in her district, but work there. I would guess. Right.
And it's not a question of even if you think you're going to piss off this people in Staten Island because they're all, very Republican over there. I think that's something that you would have said to Christian Smalls. If it was a strategic decision to be like, it's better for us to hang back, but we can send you these resources.
Right.
That I think your theory would be correct. Your theory may be correct as to why, maybe the one I don't think so. I think there was a lot of resources deployed there. I think Amazon knew exactly how problematic this was.
But in terms of I don't know, it could be right. It could be right that was why, it slipped through and it was able to be successful. But it doesn't.
It could be successful.
But it doesn't mean that
plan.
Ocasio-Cortez's blind spot wasn't or she missed it here, right? I have an issue with it being capitalized on for clicks and I wish her response was more like I messed up here. But it's just, again, it's like I feel it's like such small ball that what we're talking about because she supported their effort and she could have done more, but she didn't.
Nevertheless, I think the thing too that really, you look to a couple of these organizers and realize that they did an amazing job. And, I think it's also just as likely that perhaps because they were independent of a union, they got support from some unions, but they ran independently. They were not taking the workers themselves were making the strategic decisions. I think there's something to that, and that they understood who they were dealing with more than any union coming from the outside could, because there was
politician
for that matter. But certainly it would it have helped? I would imagine it would, or if it wasn't going to help, I would have liked to have heard an explanation. We mentioned, I think, she should have been gone there, been more vocally supportive. That's my opinion. I'm sure that they had a bunch of other things going on, but I think it should have been prioritized by her. But that's kind of where it ends for me, because an overfocus on Ocasio-Cortez after there was this massive victory by Amazon employees to unionize here is only to brand your YouTube channel. That is not what the focus should be. It should be on Chris, on all of the other
union organizers there, and how can we take this fight to other areas of the country? That's what it should be.
I do think there is value in pushing, those congresspeople and other politicians who did not show up, to make them pay a little bit of a price and make sure that there's an understanding of we see you and you got to do this more. But I do think that
but why is there a focus on? I mean, I don't know. There's a focus on
there was
one
a news story with her.
Because Smalls talked about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And B, she has the ability to draw attention to things in a way that no other really Democratic politician does. And, this seemingly is something that she should be deploying those resources for. If there's a legit reason why she didn't, she should be out there and being a little bit more, explaining that, and also explaining to the leaders who are organizing, prior to it.
Yeah.
So that,
but it's a degree. It's like it's a debate about degrees, because she was supportive of the effort. She just wasn't on the ground, which again, I think is a fair critique. But there's but the over focus on it is frustrating, because it's not the story here, in my opinion, at all.
I think the over focus is probably not as large as it seems to us, because it's in a corner of Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Or, it's done to appeal to a largely right-wing audience that you've cultivated.
But both those things are true.